This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here with winemaker André Hueston Mack, who's joining us all the way from, where are you based right now?
This time of year, I'm living in Brooklyn in a place called Prospect Lefferts Gardens, on the other side of the park of Brooklyn. And then normally, most years, I would go back to New York tomorrow, would pack up my family, and we would move to our home in the Dundee Hills in the Willamette Valley.
In Oregon.
In Oregon.
Yeah. What?
But this year, we're doing something a little bit different, and we're headed the opposite direction to Lyon, France.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Very nice.
So, where shall we begin? I know. Your start in the world of hospitality was at Red Lobster, I believe.
Yeah, I like to start there at Red Lobster. We could start at McDonald's.
Oh, you did McDonald's as well?
Of course, like everybody worked at McDonald's.
I did actually at university.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, like, what do you mean I need to rack these fries? So, it was one of those things. But yeah, I think like serious, like the first place I ever became a waiter and like really kind of embarked in hospitality was Red Lobster. I started out as a dishwasher. I was defeining shrimp. I was doing all these other odd jobs, and I had to beg and plead them to let me be a waiter. And to the fact that we're like, no, we're not hiring anybody. And then I would look in the newspaper, and they would hire someone. And I would come into work early when they had the call for like waiters. I'd come with a resume. I'd come all cleaned up and dolled up, suited up, and said I was here to apply for the job. And it took doing that 4 or 5 times that they actually let me be a waiter.
Wow. So was it there that you begin to acquire some sort of love for wine? Because I know that your family didn't really drink wine on a regular basis.
My family did not drink on a regular basis. And it was not there that I fell in love with wine because, to be honest, they had a shitty wine list, and they really didn't have one. Like, it was like one of those things where they would open it up with the thing that you drill down and pull the arms down, and they had, in all due respect, it didn't have a wine program that promoted that. That wasn't. No one really ordered wine there, and so that never worked out that way.
Right.
It wasn't. Working at Red Lobster was and becoming a waiter was just honing my craft and really understanding that I really like to interact with people, and it was something that came to me easy. And I really liked that instant gratification, and then also I really liked the money that I made, and I really liked the casualness of it and those kind of things, and that was the driving force for me. And as I kind of climbed the ranks and worked at better restaurants with better wine lists, it wasn't until I worked at a steakhouse that they had 80 wines by the glass. 80 wines on the list. That small list, but a lot bigger than what I was used to. That's the time that I really kind of hunkered down and really kind of fell in love with wine.
So from your lowly beginnings in McDonald's through Red Lobster to a more upscale steakhouse, you then found yourself working with Thomas Keller, which must have been a hell of an experience.
A huge jump. Yeah, I don't think that I had ever worked in a fine dining restaurant of that caliber or anything even close to that. And it was all based on, I got the job all based on my wine knowledge, and obviously they liked me. And that was really hard for me at the beginning because I worked in places where, you covered your ass, right? That wasn't my fault, and and I think in society today, definitely where I'm from, is that you assess blame to who's at fault instead of like how we can fix the problem. And in this place, that wasn't it. You always, when things went wrong, you always looked in the mirror and you looked at yourself and said, what could I have done better? And it was a really magical place to work. It was like none other place that had ever worked, even when I worked in finance. Like, everybody held themselves accountable into a higher level. And that was the most magical thing about that place. Everybody cared.
So you were over in California at the French Laundry, and then you found yourself in New York at Per Se. What would you say you learned through that 6 years that you were with Thomas Keller? What were the most important things that you learned?
Wow, man, that's a big question. I would say that there were several different things that I learned. The biggest thing that I learned that applies to my business and to the things that we do is that you put yourself out there and you let people. I'm not using the right words because I'm going to say people buy in. That means that you're selling them something, and it's not that I'm selling something. People buy into your dream. Working for Thomas, you know, we were taught, what would the chef do? We weren't taught like, treat it like it's your own and one day it will be yours. It was like, treat it like it was Thomas Keller. And if we all had the same philosophy and thought process, it was a way for him to multiply himself. So it wasn't just Thomas at the helm, there was Thomas, and then there were 150 people who thought exactly like him. And I think that's how you get things done, that's how you inoculate a culture. And for me, that was the biggest thing. And I think one of the other biggest things is like that believe in yourself and have a sense, and it's okay to have a sense of humor. And by having a sense of humor, you know, to me that really off-put, you know, it was the greatest foil to pretension. And when I say that, it's like that it's okay. What I learned there was like it was okay to have fun, right? Because you could back it up by what was in the bottle or what you had, right? You know, so the menu items were very playful. There was a dish called tongue in cheek, which was actually tongue and cheek, and you cracked a smile on your face when you read it, and it was playful in a way. And not all the time does playful mean stupid or marketing gimmick or anything like that. That you could have a sense of humor, and if you were okay with, if you were confident in what you were producing and what you put out. I'll say one other thing, and the biggest revelation that I had working there was, we used to have this saying, work to impress the people that you work side by side with. And if you can blow them away, then anybody who walks through the door is floored, right? In a way that like, there's nobody in it like you and your peers. Like you eat and breathe and die for this shit, right? And if I can impress the person who's working next to me, anybody that comes to those front doors, you know, is in awe of what you do. And that's what basically kind of what I've lived by, is pushing myself and trying to impress and earn the respect of my peers.
Sounds like an admirable work culture
very much
that was going on there. Now, you're in this role, perhaps some would say one of the most prestigious curatorial roles when it comes to wine lists in North America, if not the world. What gave you the inspiration to start making your own wine?
Well, I mean, a lot of it, right? It's like when you work for someone like the chef, he's a very aspirational person, and you want to go out and attack your own dreams. And the fact is that I was giving everything that I had to the chef and to doing a great job at work, that I didn't have enough left in my tank to pursue my own dreams. And so that was a really big predicament that I was in, trying to figure out, how do I transition out? What do I do next? Is the next job big enough? Like, what is it, right? Like, what is it? And ultimately, it came down to like, I didn't touch wine the way that I wanted to. For me, you can never know everything, every single thing about wine, and so it's this constant quest of like learning and touching and hands-on. And I had kind of gotten away from that because, you know, I had 5 other sommeliers that worked for me, and there were lots of meetings. There were meetings about meetings and emails about emails, and I found myself pretty much removed from wine.
Right.
And so for me, I wanted to continue to learn about wine. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be creative. And I find that like there wasn't a lot of creativity in that role, because as sommeliers, I feel like we're more like curators than we are creators in that way. We collect people's stories, and we collect it on the list, and we talk about it and all these and present it to people, but it didn't leave much room for a creative. And so I thought by hopping on the production side and making my own wine, I could continue to learn about wine, I could be creative, and I could also be an entrepreneur.
How did you take your first steps into that world?
I wrote an email to everybody I had ever worked with, and told them I used that platform to say what I was doing. I'm a firm believer in putting everything out in the universe and letting the universe respond, and letting those people co-conspire with you to make those things happen, right? So I wrote an email to everybody I ever met and said, I'm off to go make wine. And that put it out in the universe that say, oh wow, you're going to make wine? Like, hey, you know, we have fruit that we normally sell to these people. We much rather sell it to you. And it was a way to kind of open up things and open up a dialogue to say, my role is going to be changing. I'm going to be doing something different. And if you want to help me, then you can help me. And that's kind of how that really worked.
Very cool, very cool. So today I was watching a lecture that you were part of, library lecture, about African Americans in the wine industry. I wondered if you could tell me what your takeaway was from that discussion vis-a-vis you being an African American in what is still to this day a predominantly homogeneously white industry.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Mouton Noir was a nickname that was given to me when I moved to New York, because there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me that did what I did. And instead of fighting it or denouncing that, I embraced that wholeheartedly. Like there's nothing that I could do about it. There's nothing that I could change. And I embraced it, and I made it the name of my company. I designed the logo. It was my screensaver. But to me, Mouton Noir is about embracing what makes you different and using that to empower, to achieve goals, and to build things. And so I kind of wear it with a badge of honor in that sense. Like the thing is like, I just show up and I challenge the status quo because of what I look like, because I don't look like I don't look like everybody else. And so I understand that, and like I wear it with a badge of honor to say that, I'll raise that torch and shine light on that path for others to follow me. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And I don't, I'm a human being first, right? You know what I mean? It just so happened that I don't look like everybody else, and I want my wines to be judged on their own merits, which I believe that they are. Doesn't matter what I look like or what I do, that actually affects what's put in the bottle. It's more my attitude and my thought process and my philosophy, and I want the wines to be judged on that. But there's a whole generation and a whole group of people out there that look towards me because they realize that someone that looks like them is doing something that they never thought was attainable, and I have to respect that.
Yeah, I'm sure you're an inspiration to a lot of young men and women in the industry. Actually, I would imagine so. Thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. We really enjoyed your wines last night, and look forward to enjoying them in the future. We'll see you in Toronto again, I hope.
Thank you.
Bye for now.